Good morning, everybody! So I saw Sonic 3 last night, and no, I was not able to make a video immediately after that, but I'm making a video now, and I'll do my best to kind of briefly cover what I saw and how I felt about it, but I think I also want to go in depth more about the characters, because I think this movie does a really good job with its characters Sonic, Shadow, and Knuckles. So you can probably guess that I really love the movie, but I also want to be careful not to jump too quick on the hype train because I want to give this movie a fair review and not just me freaking out because I've been anticipating this movie for so long. Some people are saying it's the best movie ever, and I'm almost positive those are just Sonic fans, and that's totally okay. Like, it's wonderful for them to enjoy it so much, and I super enjoyed it too. I'm just holding back from freaking out about it because I do have a few criticisms that I don't want to forget just over the sheer hype. Now, while I wouldn't say it's the best movie ever, or even necessarily my favorite movie ever, it might be one of them. I could say it's one of the best movies ever in the level of personal enjoyment, because just the anticipation for this movie was so hype, and it got me so worked up, and just being there and finally seeing it for real was so rewarding. I'm so happy with that. And even though I'm a Sonic fan, I do think objectively there's a lot of good things here. The Sonic movies are some of the few popular action-y, superhero-ish movies right now that actually take the time to flesh out the characters and have heartfelt scenes so that the action matters, so that it has weight. The movie definitely surprised me with how dark it was at times. Like, I knew the Maria story was going to be dark. I thought they handled her death very well, by the way. But getting into spoiler territory here, there are a total of 4 deaths in this movie, which is, I think, more than all the other movies. I don't think anyone died in— oh, no, wait. Longclaw died. But the first time a character dies in the movie, it's not Maria. It was the Olive Garden guy. Since I'm so used to these movies being so lighthearted, I totally thought this guy was gonna show up again later and make a joke about the Olive Garden, but he was actually dead. He will never make a joke about the Olive Garden again, and that's actually kinda sad. There was actually something else that made me more emotional than I expected. Like, of course I'm expecting to feel emotions with Shadow's backstory, but I almost cried when Robotnik died. This actually confused me so much. I'm like, why am I crying? Is it the music? But I think it's because that scene is told through the perspective of Agent Stone. And also, Robotnik genuinely does have a bit of a character arc in this movie. And maybe, even when characters are really silly, over-the-top villains, when they die, after we spend so much time with them, it can kind of be sad to see them go. I'm not going to talk about how good Shadow and Maria were right now because I just want to cover the basic good things and then move on to that when I get to actual character discussion. So some other good things about the movie was that yes, it's very wholesome, but also it's very goofy, so that's a good thing, maybe a bit too goofy, but if you really liked Robotnik in any of the other movies, there is more of him than ever in this film, and I don't just mean that because there's 2. There's so many Robotnik scenes. This probably isn't really a surprise to anyone, but the fight scenes are very good. I love the lighting, I love the Tokyo setting. It's really great to see someone so overpowered against Sonic. My first point of criticism, I think, was that the film feels very fast-paced, like maybe too fast. Like, things happen very quickly in this movie. Pretty sure Team Sonic decides to team up with Robotnik in the first 20 minutes. Thankfully, it still takes time for the really important stuff. I just felt like things were happening like a little bit too fast, like maybe there could have been more breathing room. I didn't want to say this because it really seems like Keanu Reeves gave it his all based on the interviews or if you watch the recordings, and he seems very passionate about it, but I feel like his voice acting was a bit off. I think Keanu Reeves doesn't do voice roles very much, but Idris Elba and Ben Schwartz definitely do, so you can hear the difference. It's not like Keanu's voice is wrong for Shadow. It's very good, it's well suited to him, but he talks too slowly and deliberately. I don't think it ruins the character or anything, but it is noticeable. For example, the people I watched the movie with, that was unfortunately the first thing they said after the movie. They were like, what was with his voice acting? He talks too slowly. And now I want to talk about the main appeal of the movie and something I think it does best, and that is the Shadow and Maria story. This was so beautiful. My only complaint is that I wanted more of it, like more scenes or just to linger on those moments a bit longer, but the moments we get are so heartbreaking. In Sonic 2, Knuckles made a really good rival to Sonic, and there were things they had in common, but in this movie, Sonic 3, I feel like Sonic and Shadow have a really strong intentional parallel and it's so expertly done. I'm so proud of them for this. Sonic's character really comes full circle in this movie for me. So anything I noticed in the other movies, I can say with confidence now that these are defining traits because this movie just emphasizes them, while also simultaneously showing us another side of Sonic, one that is darker. No matter what anyone says, Sonic is a character who has been through a lot. He watched his mother figure die trying to protect him, and then he was basically shut out from anyone who could have helped him at the time. That does sound a bit like Shadow. Or well, I guess actually in the movie they don't really have her die protecting Shadow like they do in the games. It's more like she is just a casualty from when they're all trying to escape the gun soldiers together. But after this, Shadow is put on ice for 50 years, which is like the most extreme form of isolation, and all that's going through his head that entire time is Maria's death. And so when he wakes up, he's just livid with the fresh feeling of that incident. The key difference between Sonic and Shadow here, which they both acknowledge, is that Sonic eventually found a family who helped him to heal, whereas Shadow had no one. But this is where Sonic's greatest character trait truly shines. Sonic doesn't judge Shadow for the way he's become, and he doesn't see himself as better. He knows that without his family, he could have ended up the same way. If you think about it, in each movie, even though Sonic always ends up fighting the new character, he always tries to talk to them first. He never wants to fight them. He truly seeks to understand why they're doing this and where they're coming from before deciding whether or not he should truly fight them other than in just self-defense. Both Knuckles and Shadow have caused Sonic great pain, but instead of letting that pain cause him to hate them, ultimately, all he can do is sit down with them and try to help them move forward. And he does so through sharing his own experiences. In the movies, Sonic really is this little healer. Sonic comes uncomfortably close to becoming like Shadow when Tom is mortally wounded by him. But what makes him stop is remembering how Tom encouraged him that he was someone who had never allowed pain to change who he was. Shadow is someone who is defined by pain. He even says this himself. Meanwhile, Sonic says, "This pain is not who I am." I can't find any images of this scene online, but there's a scene where Sonic and Shadow are just sitting together on the moon, similarly to how Sonic and Knuckles are sitting on the beach at the end of Sonic 2. By now, Sonic doesn't even have to explain himself. Shadow can already tell that Sonic has experienced loss in his life. When Shadow asks Sonic if the pain ever goes away, Sonic says no. Personally, I have always found that question to be very uncomfortable. I remember the first time I ever heard someone ask this question was in an episode of Blue Bloods, where this judge lady tells the grieving woman, no, that pain will never go away. I was upset to hear this, and I said out loud, that can't be true, and my sister told me, but it is true. I said, but if that is true, how would someone with that kind of pain be able to go on living? And she didn't have a good answer for that. Thankfully, Sonic does have a good answer, and that is that there is something stronger and more powerful than that pain, and that is the love you had for that person who is now gone, and the love you have for your family and friends who are here now, or who you will meet. This love and the love that they have for you can help carry you through that pain, and keep you from becoming this warped version of yourself. That's kind of a mature message, isn't it? Speaking of mature, this continues to be the best version of Knuckles we've ever had. When Tom is fighting for his life, Sonic becomes unstable and breaks the sacred vow he made with Knuckles and Tails. I was positive that Sonic and Knuckles were going to beat the crap out of each other, but at the last second, Knuckles powers down and says something like, no, even if you don't honor your vow, I must honor mine. And he chooses to trust Sonic because that was why they made the vow in the first place. We know from both Sonic 2 and the Knuckles series that betrayal is the worst sin you can ever commit in Knuckles' eyes. The only thing more important to Knuckles than his honor as a warrior is his loyalty. This is just such consistent character writing, and I adore it. Man, if they ever introduced Julie Sue or some other love interest for Knuckles in this series, he'd make a damn good husband. They could probably lie and cheat all they wanted and he'd still be faithful. And on that note, it seems like Sonic might be getting a love interest since Amy Rose was in the post-credits scene. And an army of Metal Sonics? I wasn't expecting there to be that many. I actually don't have any strong theories for these things. Your guess is as good as mine here. I am hoping that Sonic and Amy kind of like each other, but maybe not in this really loud and obvious way, maybe in a more subtle and sweet way. And since Robotnik is dead, I don't know who would have made those Metal Sonics. it's very possible it could have been Stone, but at the same time, I also really don't think he would do that. So chances are that there's someone else entirely new who did this. But anyways, those are my thoughts. What are yours? And that was also my Sonic 3 review and character analysis. Let me know what you think of this video and the movie and Sonic movies going forward in the comments below. I always love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Bye.